So why is UVB important, and what's the difference between UVA and UVB? UVA can be found in reptile heat bulbs, and it can be found in reptile UVB bulbs. UVA basically allows the animal to stay healthy. It'll allow them to metabolize their food, it'll keep their body temperature up, and then it'll allow their immune system to stay in place. Basically, our body regulates its own temperature on its own. A reptile has to thermoregulate based on the temperature in their environment along with the UVA. So you'll get that from basically all of your reptile bulbs. UVB, on the other hand, is only available through natural unfiltered sunlight or through a synthetic UVB bulb. UVB is specifically used for diurnal animals, or animals that are awake during the day. Basically, diurnal animals need access to UVB to metabolize their calcium, and they do that through vitamin D3 synthesis. Nocturnal animals, on the other hand, don't typically need UVB to metabolize their calcium. Now, there's a lot of research currently underway that says nocturnal animals do need access to UVB, but currently where we sit as an industry, it's primarily for our diurnal animals, or animals that are awake during the day. So what happens if an animal doesn't have UVB? Well, without access to UVB, again, either natural unfiltered sunlight or a synthetic UVB bulb, that animal cannot metabolize the calcium. So no matter how much calcium is in their diet, the animal's body can't absorb that calcium. What in turn happens is the animal's body will start pulling calcium from obvious sources, such as their bones in lizards, or its shell if it's a turtle or a tortoise. Eventually the bones are going to weaken, or the shell will soften, and the animal develops what's similar to osteoporosis. It's called metabolic bone disease. And the problem with metabolic bone disease is you typically can't see it. It's a softening of the bones or depletion of the calcium stores in the bones. By the time you are able to see the issues, it's typically too late. Some of the signs of metabolic bone disease will be tremors or seizures. You'll notice swelling around the joints. Chameleons in particular will have trouble shooting their tongue out, or they'll have trouble gripping onto different branches and whatnot. Typically you'll notice an overall lack of activity level or appetite from a lizard or a tortoise for that matter. So what do you do if your animal has metabolic bone disease, or if you have an animal that hasn't had access to adequate UVB light? Well, the first thing you need to do is get them under UVB. However, not all UVB bulbs are created equal. Your fluorescent UVBs, whether they be compact fluorescence or linear fluorescence, will simply maintain the current level of health. They will not reverse metabolic bone disease. So an animal that already has MBD, or that hasn't had access to UVB, would not thrive under just a simple compact fluorescent or linear fluorescent. Mercury vapor bulbs, on the other hand, and metal halide bulbs will actually reverse metabolic bone disease. So when we get animals in that show signs of metabolic bone disease, or if the animal has not had adequate UVB light, we immediately put them under mercury vapor or metal halide. Those will reverse the effects of metabolic bone disease and fully heal the animal. So when we talk about metabolic bone disease, I mentioned that UVB allows the animal to metabolize their calcium. But if you have a UVB bulb and you're not supplementing with calcium, there's nothing for the animal to metabolize. So you need to make sure that you supplement with the proper type of calcium. There's two different calciums on the market. There's a with D3 and a without D3. Typically, your diurnal animals will need the calcium with vitamin D3 because the vitamin D3 aids in the metabolism of calcium. On that note, typically your nocturnal animals will need the calcium without D3 because they don't necessarily need the D3 to metabolize their calcium. Now keep in mind the key word here is typically. There's exceptions to every rule, and there will be situations where a diurnal animal would require the without D3, or where a nocturnal animal would require the with D3. Consult your local veterinarian or exotic store and they can help you decide which calcium is right for you.